Hey, so this might end up feeling a bit more freewheeling than usual because partly I just wrapped a convention appearance and of course now I've got a bit of a head cold, and also because I'm putting this together kind of last minute. We are putting this together kind of last minute. Okay, so I had a different episode that was going to run this week. We'll probably run it next week instead. It should still be, unfortunately, evergreen, but I wanted to bump it for something else because it's not really about happy stuff going on in the world of games, and honestly, it's been bugging me a bit that so much of the week-to-week discourse here and elsewhere in gaming commentary, I guess, is so often on the negative side, regardless of whether or not you can pin it on me being personally a sourpuss or the world just being kind of, terrible. So I've been genuinely hoping to see something positive happening in video games outside of, oh hey, this individual game seems nice to build a happy installment around, and wow, yeah, then this whole thing happened. So context. Along with the ridiculous disasters of the self-inflicted kind, the United Kingdom is currently grappling with a bizarre wave of organized and extremely hateful campaigns against transgender rights and really transgender existence as part of a free society, fronted by strange bedfellows mashup of political alliances that have turned their ire recently on the awarding of £500,000 charitable grant from the British National Lottery to the transgender youth charity Mermaids, which works to raise awareness, connect trans youth and their families with support, resources, and information, and lobby for better treatment of transgender individuals and public education on trans rights issues, with the controversy blowing up massively when once popular comedian and TV producer turned prominent anti-trans rights political activist Graham Linehan pushed his social media followers and fans to inundate the National Lottery with complaints, mainly about deeply misunderstood science and baseless child abuse conspiracy theories involving the organization, that led to the grant being temporarily rescinded and placed under review. In response to this, Harry Brewis, a popular YouTube video essayist and Twitch streaming personality better known as HBomberguy or HBomberguy, decided to boot up a charity stream on Twitch wherein he'd raise money specifically for donation to Mermaids in defiance of Linehan's aim to defund the group by inviting fans and followers of his to toss donations in his direction while hanging out on stream and watching him attempt a complete playthrough of the famously frustrating and overlong Donkey Kong 64, starting off with a modest target goal, and then things got a little wild. The HBomberguy stream ended up catching fire on social media. Hundreds of fans began kicking in ever-increasing sums of money and flooding internet discussion spaces with newly minted memes about the game, their host's take on his increasingly esoteric experience with it, and visual puns on the idea of Donkey Kong characters reimagined as trans rights icons. Noteworthy fellow YouTube and gaming celebrities like Linkara, John Romero, Natalie Wynn, my friends and colleagues Lindsay Ellis and Jim Sterling, former Matilda actress Mara Wilson, many others all made call-in appearances as well to further encourage donations. Full disclosure, I did not call in. I was working most of the weekend, as I said, though I did make a donation of my own and would certainly have been happy to call in under other circumstances, with the stream eventually extending all the way into mainstream media attention as international politics got involved, with Chelsea Manning and social media superstar United States Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling in to show their support, encourage donations, and yeah, talk about classic gaming.
My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I am the Congresswoman for New York's 14th Congressional District. It's a no-brainer. Trans rights are civil rights are human rights.
Woo! Thank you so much for saying that.
I never owned an N64, though I do think it's probably the best system out of all of them. I never owned an N64, but I used to go to my cousin's house all the time, and she had Super Mario 64, Pokemon Snap.
Now, obviously, the basic inherent goodness of this is plain on its face, or at least it should be. A bunch of people coming together organically and spontaneously in the spirit of charity and shared humanity to do something positive and then will it into something increasingly fun and meaningful in order to make that positive impact increasingly large. It was bar none one of the most remarkable and beautiful things that I've ever seen play out in the digital space, and I was simply awestruck and proud of how admirable the people involved in this were, to say nothing of honored to know a few of them in one way or another. But it wasn't until I started rewatching and considering the magnitude and meaning behind the brief yet striking interactions between Brewis and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez that I understood how specifically, though I would stress not at all most importantly powerful it felt as a gaming moment in particular, and that part of what I was reacting to was the first overwhelmingly strong sense in ages of a wholly positive incarnation of a gamer culture, in the form of, hey, let's play this game as a rally point for friends, colleagues, and indeed total strangers to organize around and affect positive change. I'm now given to recognize that in many respects this was the energy, if not the specific accoutrements, of the gamer culture I felt that I could remember having existed at one time but hadn't really felt the presence of in forever. A variant totally different from both the aggressive toxicity of the frog-memeing conspiracy-monger edgelords raging against the hair color choices of games journalists on the one hand, and the bloated, shambling husks of the slow-motion imploding exploding AAA games industry on the other. One that's celebratory of gaming as a positive force without that very celebration needing to be the focus or the reason for being. By which I mean, you know, gaming charity streams themselves occasionally get a bad or at least cynical reputation because so often they're seen, not entirely without reason, as being about using the act of charity as a tool for building up gaming or gamers as opposed to the other way around. You know, you can't criticize this controversial game or call gamers toxic in any situation anymore because, see, we did a charity thing and that means that it's good now. And there was just none of that energy or even a sense of need to defend or build up any of the medium at all here. You had a sitting member of Congress and a quote-unquote gamer in the same space, not as enemies arguing over censorship or granular free speech goofery, but as allies unifying, if only for a moment, to do something actually meaningful about an issue that actually mattered. And not to argue or snark over games, but to commiserate over shared classic Nintendo 64 memories. I mean, yeah, without this turning into a complete ramble, look, I'm doing my best. Usually we have a whole week to work on these things. I'm doing this in like 2 days. What happened on that stream was, broadly, an example of what the best and simple humanity should look like, period. But it's also, in a narrow sense, an idea of what the best version of gamers and gaming can look like. A refreshing antidote to the mean-spirited ugliness that's defined the culture for too long, and I genuinely feel like maybe a measure of redemption for some of the less than beneficial things gamer culture has been party to in recent years. And watching it play out, I felt rejuvenated and hopeful and positive and renewed about video games in a way that almost nothing has made me feel about them in a very, very long time. It's a better way forward, should we choose it. Just a thought. And one more thing. Trans rights are human rights.